Hare Krishna, everyone. So today we are reading from the Canto 4, Chapter 6, Brahma Satisfies Lord Shiva, verses 22 to 24. Paryastam Nandaya Satya Snana Punyatarodaya Vilokya Bhutesha Girim Vibudha Vismayam Yayuhu Paryastam Nandaya Satya Snana Punyatarodaya Vilokya Bhutesha Girim Vibudha Vismayam Yayuhu. Word to word. Paryastam, surrounded. Nandaya, by the Nanda. Satya, of Sati. Snana, by the bathing. Punyatara, especially favored. Udaya, with water. Vilokya, after seeing. Bhuta Isha, of Bhutesha, the lord of the ghosts, Lord Shiva. Girim, the mountain. Vibhuda, the demigods. Vismayam, wonder. Yayuhu, obtained. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. There is a small lake named Alakananda in which Sati used to take her bath, and that lake is especially auspicious. All the demigods, after seeing the specific beauty of Kailasa hill, were struck with wonder at the great opulence to be found there. Purport. According to the commentary called Sri Bhagavata Chandra Chandrika, the water in which Sati used to bathe was Ganges water. In other words, the Ganges flowed through the Kailasa Parvata. There is every possibility of accepting such a statement because Ganges water also flows from the hair of Lord Shiva. Since Ganges water rests on the head of Lord Shiva and then flows to the other parts of the universe, it is quite possible that the water in which Sati bathed, which was certainly very nicely scented, was Ganges water. Text 23. Dadrishustatra teram yam alakam nama vaipurim vanam saugandhikam chapi yatra tannama pankajam. Thus the demigods saw the wonderfully beautiful region known as Alaka in the forest known as Saugandhika, which means full of fragrance. The forest is known as Saugandhika because of its abundance of lotus flowers. Purport. Sometimes Alaka is known as Alakapuri, which is also the name of the abode of Kuvera. Kuvera's abode, however, cannot be seen from Kailasa. Therefore, the region of Alaka referred to here is different from the Alakapuri of Kuvera. According to Veera Raghava Acharya, Alaka means uncommonly beautiful. In the region of Alaka that the demigod saw, there is a type of lotus flower known as Saugandhika that distributes an especially fragrant scent. Nanda chalaka nanda cha sarito bahyata pura tirthapada padam bhoja rajasatitva pavani. They also saw the two rivers named Nanda and Alakananda. These two rivers are sanctified by the dust of the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Govinda. We'll do prayers. Om Ajnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chaksurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupaha Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tham Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Jeenabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpatarupyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Presthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Nitinamine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Sri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Narayanam namaskrutyam narancheva narottamam devim saraswatim vyasam tato jayam udirayet. Hare Krishna. So today's verses that we're reading is from fourth canto of chapter 6 of fourth canto, where Brahma satisfies Lord Shiva. So just to give a where we are starting from this chapter, just to introduce it. So the demigods, after in the previous chapter, Virabhadra uh, and his followers have completely devastated the sacrifice, and the people who are irreligious, uh, including demigods, and they also killed many demons. After that, the demigods, in fear, approached Lord Brahma. So Brahma, in the first few verses of this chapter, it was mentioned that Brahma and Vishnu were very well aware of this being happen, uh, that Daksha is going to do some sacrifice which is not pleasing to to Shiva, and something like this is already foreseen. Therefore, they did not participate in the Daksha Yajna, both Shiva and Brahma. And when demigods approached Brahma and explained the situation, so Brahma, out of compassion, uh, he he advised that we all go to Lord Shiva's abode, which is in Kailasha Hill, and beg for forgiveness. That is the only way that uh, you can come back to your own occupation and do, and your fear will be gone. And he also mentioned that Lord Shiva he gets easily pleased, is Ashutosh, and uh, he can restore dharma. So, few verses prior to these verses today, it describes the beauty of Kailasa Hill. The demigods on their way to Kailasa Hill, they see many wonderful natural beauty. There are very beautiful descriptions of how there are many these rivers, including today's reading of Alakananda. Uh, and they see so many jewels, minerals, and also the place itself. Whoever is born in that place, Kailasha Hill, is demigods by birth. They get the mystic powers already. And there are two different animals being described. The herds of elephants, when they move in the Kailasa Hill, it seems like the Kailasa Hill itself moves. So there are beautiful flowers, the golden flower, lotus flowers, which give a lot of fragrance. So that's the celestial realm. The Kailasa Hill being described here is not on the earthly realm. So there is something in our material world in India, we have in Tibet. That's an earthly realm, the Bhauma Kailasa. And there is the one that is described here is Deva Kailasa. It's in celestial realm. And we'll discuss. There is references how these Ganges splits on the top of Mount Meru and then flow onto the Bharatavarsha in 4 different directions. And one of them is Alakananda. So there is this lot of beauty they've been described in the previous verses and the verses following today. So one need to appreciate the beauty also. just like how demigods were wonderstruck of looking at that beauty. And we all know from Bhagavad Gita, this is Lord Himself. It's one of His energies, the material energy, and He is the superintendent of that energy. He's the directing the laws of nature. So Mayadhyakshena Prakriti Suyate cha Characharam Hetunanena Kaunteya Jagat Viparivartate. So he's the superintendent of it. And then out of his direction, this material world is working, and it will be created, maintained, and annihilated. And then in the future verses, and just giving a preview, the Shiva is in the Kailasa abode, and he was meditating under this big banyan tree, 800 miles long or high and 600 miles long. And there he was meditating on the Lord. So even though the abode of Kailasa Hill was so beautiful, opulent, as being described in these verses, but the Lord Shiva, he's being completely detached of it, and he's being in the is being in the mode of devotion, and is meditation on the ultimate goal. So we can understand the position of Lord Shiva that way also. Is very detached to the material sense enjoyment. Yesterday I was hearing from my Guru Maharaj, His Holiness Rampada Swami. He was explaining another personality, the Pundarika Vidyanidhi, how when Gadadhar Pandit goes to him along with Mukunda, and Gadadhar Pandit by birth, as a child, he was so detached. And Mukunda takes him one time to Pundarik Vidyanidhi. And as we might know, Pundarik Vidyanidhi is like a devotee who is in concealed. He's concealed his devotion. So he's very opulent. He wears the silk robes and has smoking pot, hookah or haka, what do we call? And then he has so many servants serving him. And Gadadhar Pandit thinks to himself, why am I here? What is he doing? And then Mukunda sings this beautiful verse from Bhagavatam, and we know how Pundarik Vidyanidhi just fall on the ground in ecstasy and rolls and dances, and he shows his ecstasy. Then later he understands, Gadadhar Pandit understand that, oh, he's not an ordinary personality. He's completely detached. Uh, So a personality, a devotee can be in both forms, is what I'm trying to say. Like Lord Shiva, he was completely detached, he was in pure meditation. Or a devotee can also be in a concealed form where he can show up some opulence, but he's completely detached as well to the material sense enjoyment. So we need to find those differences and not make any offenses. The the theme that I felt when I read these verses, there is from the mainly the chapter itself, the flow. It is teaching me the path to bhakti, just like how devotees we are practicing, and in our practice we make several offenses. We blaspheme other devotees or the the Lord Himself in certain cases, maybe. And uh, just like demigods, how they offended Lord Shiva by participating in the Daksha Yajna. I mean, they are not directly offending. However, participating in such a yajna, which is against Lord Shiva by not offering him oblations, is also an offense. Just like how Prabhupada says, not just killing an animal is an offense, but one who carries and maintains and feeds and buy and sell it. So everyone in that line of activity is also an offender. So, has just demigods approached Lord Brahma for what's next? What is our shelter? In the same way, in our bhakti, we need to find our own shelter and then go to that abode where Lord Shiva is. So go to take shelter of uh, Krishna, where we can find our peace and prosperity. So that's the path to bhakti also. That is how I am seeing this. And on our way, just like how the Kailasa hill was beautiful and decorated with so many natural things, we might get attracted as well on our way. And then, as we know, a devotee, as they progress, they get these powers, they get the charm, they get, one might be very eloquent in their speech, or one might get wealth. So there are so many attractions. So we should not get just attracted by that and then fall for it and forget the main purpose of why we are doing this. Just like Srila Prabhupada's journey himself, he exemplifies that. When he comes to New York the first time, he doesn't have any money. And then he was roaming in the streets, finding one sincere devotee to preach, or his things get stolen, his tape recorder and whatever the materials that he have. And he's taking shelter of different uh, people who accommodated him in a small room, the cold weather in his age. So there are many things why he struggled alone. That tells us in the when he came to New York. But later on, but later on, we know what he created worldwide. The ISKCON, this movement. So while I was reading yesterday from Prabhupada biography Leela towards end of his life, 1976, towards the end of that year, he visits New York for the Rath Yatra. And there he explains when he was being picked up by his disciples from LaGuardia airport, on his way, he describes all his struggles alone, what he faced in the beginning. And now we see this big skyscraper, ISKCON Center, which is in the middle, in the heart of the city. And there are thousands of devotees welcoming him. And the Rath Yatra taking place on the main stretch. So he has been seated on the Vyasasan, and they're like, he was towards the end of the Rath Yatra, they were distributing prasadam to many more thousands. And the Times of New York, everyone publishing, the East meets the West, and the spiritual revolution begin, and there's so many other. So that the opulent, uh, what Prabhupada achieved. However, his health is being diminishing during that time. And all the senior disciples told Prabhupada, please do not leave at this time. Please do not go, stay here. But he's still passing, but he's on the day of his travel, he's passing on his elevator. And he tells them, looking at their faces, this this thing, I'm paraphrasing, but he says, I am I don't want to stay back because I want to struggle. I want to fight until my last breath, just like how Arjuna did. So he tells those words, and then everyone understood his mood and his service, and let him go. But he never get attracted by any of these opulences that he received. So therefore, one need not get distracted when one might get something like that in our journey of bhakti. And the definition of pure bhakti, as Rupa Goswami says, Anyabhilashita shunyam jnana karma dhyanavritam anukulyena krishna anushilanam bhakti ruchyate. So that is the Uttama Bhakti, which is devoid of all material desires, jnana, mental speculation, karma, any fruitive activities, adi, which is anything else that comes along, yoga, siddhis, and everything. So one should divide it, devoid of all these things. That is what one should not do, or one should do, and one should follow what is favorable for bhakti. And that is our next topic. What is favorable? So that's favorable thing to bhakti. There are many. Uh, so one of those things is taking shelter of the holy places or going on a pilgrimage. And one of the things that we do, especially in India, when we go to this sacred river like Ganges, we take bath. That is one of the topics today, that Alakananda River. That is one of the the rivers that is flowing from Ganges when it's split on top of Mount Meru. And Prabhupada says uh, in the fifth canto, where the descent of Ganges is being explained, that this is meeting in Bay of Bengal, but it is coming all the way from the celestial region, which we don't have access, at the top of Mount Meru. And there are so many other verses that describe the glorification of Ganges in Srimad Bhagavatam. It is called as Ganga Devi. Devi, in one of the purports, Prabhupada uh, translates to the direct representative of the Lord. That's what Devi means. And why? Because she is being poured from the lotus feet of the Lord, which is anointed with the Tulsi rivers. Therefore, it's very purification to us. It removes all the sins. And one of the purpose Prabhupada says that it removes sins immediately, whatever we have accumulated so far. However, uh, if one guards after taking bath in the Ganges River, if one can guard there from doing further sins, then he is delivered. However, if one performs again the same sinful activities over again after coming back, he says that it is like a elephant bath. Hasti snana. Hasti means elephant. So one should be careful uh, not to visit or take bath in Ganges, knowing that they will do it again, the same mistakes. Today, this morning, when I was hearing from Prabhupada, he talks about how the chanting, uh, he's explaining the verse, Tadvak Visargo Janataga Viplavo. Agha means sins. And the Srimad Bhagavatam, or the chanting, helps one to get away from those sins or purifies them. It's like it acts like a disinfectant. So, however, when one does the same mistake after chanting, or he gives an example of how people visit churches and confess, that is also a way of purifying. All our sins will be removed. But what they do, they come back and do the same sinful activities. So that is even a big offense than the offenses that we performed earlier, or the sins we performed earlier. That's what Prabhupada says. So one need to be very careful when one is taking purification through either through chanting or hearing or taking bath in Ganges. And there, in one of the purpose also, there is this, not just Ganges, Yamuna is also being described as the sacred. In fact, Jiva Goswami says that Yamuna is 100 times the purification of the Ganges, because Ganges flows to the lotus feet of the Lord, but Krishna himself voluntarily takes bath in Yamuna when he is performing his pastimes. Therefore, it is more purification than the Ganges. And in one of the purpose, the it was mentioned about the Ganges that one who takes bath achieves the results of Rajasuya Yajna or the Ashwamedha Yajna. So that is that powerful. Therefore, the purpose of our visit to these holy places is to reset our consciousness more than just visiting. So that's why it is favorable to bhakti. So because it helps us purify and helps us reset our consciousness to bhakti. However, there is more favorable thing, or the most favorable thing, more than Ganges, which we do not have easy access because we are here, is hearing from a pure devotee. There are verses in Bhagavatam that tells the hearing from pure devotees is more powerful than Ganges, because one gets at once purified or sanctified by hearing from those pure devotees who took shelter of the Lord, versus one who takes Ganges, one need to use it prolonged. There's a verse in first canto. After prolonged use of taking bath in Ganges, or getting purified, one may get the same benefit. However, one who hears from a pure devotee gets purified immediately. So therefore, it is very important, especially for people who do not have access. So it's much more important than uh, Ganges itself, hearing from a pure devotee. And Prabhupada says also this, that in introduction to Bhagavad Gita, the Bhagavad Gita was spoken by the Lord, so it is coming out of his mouth. Therefore, Bhagavad Gita is even more powerful than the Ganges because it is flowing from his lotus feet. So that is another way we can see how important is this hearing or reading the scriptures, or especially from a pure devotee. And we also know from the prayers of Kunti, when the Pandavas goes to deliver the dead relatives in the Ganges water, there is this nice line, the words, Haripadabja Raja Puta Sharichale. We know Ganges purifies everyone, but the Ganges herself gets purified when Haripadabja, when the lotus feet of the Lord, or the dust of the lotus feet of the Lord uh, enters into the Ganges. Therefore, we should take the shelter of the Lord through the pure devotees. And ideal way is being already exemplified by Maharaj Parikshit. He was sitting, after the curse he got, he was sitting near the banks of the Ganges river. However, our Acharya says it is Yamuna river. But here he was sitting near that, and he was hearing from a pure devotee. That is the most ideal way, if one can get access. Otherwise, at least here, from wherever we are, because the Dham manifests wherever our consciousness is. We can remember uh, Vrindavan, and we can be in Vrindavan. I know it's time at 8. I think I'll stop here and allow anybody to share their share their reflections or comments or questions. Thank you. Okay. If no one has any questions or comments, we'll end it here. Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya eva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Hare Krishna.
Prabhu.
Hare
Thank you
Krishna,
so much.
Prabhuji. Thank you.
Thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Very nice
Hare
way to go for whole class. Thank you.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.